Hey solo gamers, thanks for checking out How's It Play Solo. I'm Mack Kern, and today I'm taking a look at Glass Road, which is a 1 to 4 player game where players try to effectively manage their resources and build a tableau to score the most points at the end of the game. I'm going to give a general overview of the multiplayer rules and turn structure, and then I'm going to take a look at the differences in the Solitaire variant. Let's check it out. In Glass Road, each player has their own personal landscape board, and over the course of the game, you will construct buildings on your board to gain points at the end of the game, and you'll also add and remove different landscape tiles to gain resources or end game points. You have a couple different types of tiles on your board at the beginning of the game. You have a number of forests, and then you've also got groves, ponds, and pits. And for these groves, ponds, and pits, you are allowed to freely remove these at any point in time. If you need to make room for buildings, or you don't even have to have a reason. You're allowed to freely remove those. The forests, you're not allowed to remove without playing a card or using a building ability that lets you do so. You also start out with 3 buildings at the beginning of the game, and each of these buildings gives you end game points for certain resources that you have. There's also a couple buildings that can be used to upgrade your buildings at the beginning of the game. So for example, this Mason's Guild is an upgrade for the Brotherhood of the Masons that you start out with. So the basic building that you start with gives you 1 point per brick that you have at the end of the game. If you construct this building, you instead get 3 points per brick at the end of the game. Each player has one of these production boards, and these are used to track your resources over the course of the game. And the way that this works is pretty cool. You've got 2 wheels, one is for glass, one is for brick, and those are the 2 big resources in the game. On the other side of the wheel, you have basic resources, and there's a couple resources like food and coal that are present on both wheels, and then the other resources are unique to their own wheel. So the glass wheel has sand, and it also has water and wood, whereas the brick wheel has clay as a unique resource associated with that. And so at any time during the game, let's say that I perform an action that gives me 2 food. I can take that on either of my wheels. Now I can't split it up, even though I've got food on both of my wheels. I have to take those 2 on one particular wheel. Let's say that I do something that gives me 1 sand. I'm going to move my sand token up 1 space, and then because the 0 space here is empty, and also because this 3 space is empty, I'm going to rotate that until the 0 space is not empty. And what just happened is I took one of each of these basic resources and turned those into 1 unit of glass. And that's not optional. You have to do that every time that 0 space is empty. If you're able to turn the wheel, basically if this 3 space is also empty, you go ahead and turn that, and you're using the basic materials to make the big resource. And this wheel works the same way. If I gain a coal, I'm going to rotate that, and now I've turned these resources into 1 brick. Before I jump into the turn structure, I'm going to talk about the 3 different types of buildings that you can construct in the game. This top row with the purple background, these are processing buildings. And first of all, for every building, the cost to construct those is located on the left side. So if I want to build the kiln, it's going to cost me 2 wood and 2 brick, and I pay those by moving the appropriate tokens down on my wheel. So this building is worth 3 points at the end of the game, and after I've built this, at any point in time, I can spend 1 coal to gain 2 clay. I can do that as many times as I want, so those are pretty cool. And you also have immediate buildings, and these, once you pay for them, They also provide points sometimes at the end of the game, and they give you immediate resources. So if I build this storage building, I immediately get 2 brick. And then this doesn't really have any gameplay effects for the rest of the game until the end game scoring, when it gives me 1 point. And I'll also point out right now that once you've built a building on your board, you can't remove this for the rest of the game. So you're stuck with it once you've built it, but you do get end game points for it. It just doesn't have any other effects on the gameplay. Finally, you have bonus buildings, and these give you points at the end of the game, either for resources or sometimes for landscape features on your board. So this pottery building gives you 1 point for every clay that you have at the end of the game. Or I really like these buildings. There's one of these for floods, for pits, and for groves. And basically what this means is that if I have a region of 6 connected ponds, not diagonally connected, but all of them are adjacently connected, I get 1 point for each pond in that region. And so this is just a cool way to kind of set up your big end game scoring bonuses. Each player has an identical set of 15 cards, and each of these cards has 2 actions on it. And some of the cards also have what's called an entry fee. So to use either of these actions, you would have to pay 1 food. Occasionally, you get to use both of the actions on the card. You only have to pay the entry fee once in that case. The game takes place over 4 rounds, and in each round, each player selects 5 of these cards to form their hand for that round. So, once every player has selected their hand, each player chooses 1 card and plays that card face down. Once everyone has played a card face down, the starting player reveals the card that they played. And then all other players who have a copy of this same card still in their hand. So if any of the other players had selected the carpenter for this round, and that wasn't the card that they just played face down, they would reveal that card from their hand. And everyone that revealed the card, if multiple people revealed it, everyone gets to pay the entry cost and perform 1 of the 2 actions on this card. So if I'm the starting player and I play this, there's 1 other player that had a carpenter in their hand. We each can choose to remove a forest and then gain a wood or construct a building. We don't have to do the same thing. Now, if you play a card by copying someone else's action, if you're the other player that played this and you play it as a result of me revealing it, it goes into one of these 2 notches on the side of your landscape board. So you can only ever play cards off of your turn twice in the course of 1 building round. Now, if I was the only person that revealed this card, I would pay the entry cost and I would get to perform both of these actions. After the first player has resolved all of the actions on their card, and every player with a copy of that card in their hand has resolved all of the actions that they get from that card as well, you move to the next player in turn order, who reveals the card that they played, and you repeat that same process. Anyone that has a copy of that card in their hand reveals it, puts it in this slot by the side of their board, and performs the relevant actions. And you keep on repeating that until each player has revealed the card that they played face down. At that point, you've completed 1 card round. And so each building round is made up of 3 card rounds. So the round ends when everyone has played and resolved 3 face down cards from their hand. If at any point during the building round, say maybe in the second card round, I have 2 cards in the slots beside my landscape board, and these of course get there because they were in my hand when another player revealed them. If I have 2 cards over here and someone reveals another card that I have in my hand, because these 2 spots are full, I can't reveal that card and play the action based off of it. And in that case, that's going to be a card that you hang on to and are able to play in the next card round, which is actually kind of beneficial sometimes because if you play it as a result of someone else playing it, then you only get to perform one of the two actions on the card. Whereas if you're the only one that reveals that card during the card round, you can perform both of the actions. At the end of a building round, so after the 3 card rounds, you restock any buildings that have been taken from the board, and then everyone adds all of the cards that they played over that building round back to their deck of 15 cards, and all of those cards are available for the next building round. The game ends after the end of the 4th building round, and at that point you tally up the points for all of the buildings on your board, and of course, again, some buildings give you points for resources, so you add the points up for those resources as well. Whoever has the most points wins. In the solo game, you're simply trying to score as many points as you can. Instead of playing 4 building rounds, you play 7, and the number of cards that you choose to form your hand changes every round. So as you can see on this chart, during the first round, you have a 3-card hand, and then you move to a 4-card hand in the second round, and so on. Now, once you've selected the 3 cards that you want to use for your hand, you shuffle those cards up, and you randomly reveal one of them. And that card that you reveal, you can only perform one of the 2 actions on that card. And then you set it aside, and you continue doing that until you have 2 cards left in your hand. And at that point, you look at both cards, and you choose one of them, and that card that you choose, you get to perform both actions on. Now, the card that you don't choose just kind of gets set aside with no effect. So after you've played that last card, you set all of the cards from that round, including the one that you didn't get to play. You set those aside, and those cards from that building round are not available for you to use in the subsequent building round. So that's a big change from the multiplayer game to the solo game. If I use the Cultivator, which can be a really powerful card, in the 3rd round of the game, I don't have the opportunity to use it in the 4th round. So that adds another layer of planning things out, knowing that you have to use these cards at the most optimal times. Now, so if that was the first round and I played 2 of those 3 cards, in the next round I have 4 cards, I do the same thing. I play 2 of them, and then when I have 2 left, I choose one of them. Once I've resolved that card, I set these aside, and then the cards from the last round get added back to my deck, and I'm allowed to use those actions again. At the end of the 7th round, you just tally up your score just like you would in a multiplayer game. And I think that the only other change in the solo game is there's one particular card that gives you, in the multiplayer game, it gives you 2 of any resource of your choice, and it gives every other player 1 resource. In the solo game, you just get that 1 resource. But other than that, the rules are mostly the same. And the way that the order of the cards that you chose is kind of randomly revealed is a pretty good simulation of the way that cards sometimes get played off turn from your hand in response to other players. So it's a little bit of a puzzle to first of all select cards that you'll be able to efficiently use in any order, and then once you see that order, it's a puzzle to try to figure out how to effectively use them. I have nothing but good things to say about Glass Road, and it's the game that made me realize that if the game is good enough, I don't actually care whether the Solitaire variant has a win condition. There's no concrete win or lose in the Glass Road solo game, and that doesn't bother me. I've enjoyed every play of the game that I've had so far, and I'm looking forward to a lot of plays in the future. I don't know if it's a super popular opinion, but I think that I actually prefer Glass Road solo to playing with other players. And there's a couple reasons for that. One of them is that I find it's a little tedious to keep up with everyone else's tableaus and try to predict which of the 15 possible cards they might play in the upcoming rounds. If you enjoy that aspect of player interaction, like in Race for the Galaxy, where one player selecting a phase lets you perform that phase, then you would enjoy that aspect of the Glass Road multiplayer game. But for me, that's not where the fun comes from in this particular game. I really like trying to chain together the most efficient combo of buildings and just trying to work out the best cards to play, knowing that they're going to be revealed randomly over the course of the round. And so that's what I really enjoy about the game. I find it a really relaxing experience, and it's something that I don't really stress over. I don't try to math things out a whole bunch. I just try to get a general idea of what I want to do every round and play what I think are the best cards to do that. Another thing that I really like about the Solitaire game is that at the beginning of the game, you can take a look at the available buildings and you can kind of get a sense of your entire strategy without having to worry about whether someone else is going to try to steal a crucial building before you get to it. So if I see a building tile that gives me 1 point for every clay that I have at the end of the game, I can spend the beginning of the game buying buildings that allow me to gather clay more easily and not worry about having to buy that building that generates points until towards the end of the game. So I think it's a really great and really relaxing game to play solo. If you're looking for something a little bit more hardcore or something with a competitive edge, it might not be the game for you. But otherwise, if you like tableau builders, if you like Euros with kind of a farming theme, definitely check out Glass Road. It's easily one of my favorite games, has a very high chance of taking my #1 spot. So check it out.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.